All right, we're recording. Hello, my name is Caleb Garvin, and my group is presenting on Nucor. So Nucor is North America's leading and most diversified steel producer, founded in 1905 and breaking into the Fortune 500 in 1980, really catapulted into the United States' #1 steel producer under CEO Dan DiMicco. So some key resources, they have 27,000 teammates across North America, 23 scrap-based steel mill production sites, and had a revenue of over $22.5 billion in 2019, $1.2 billion of that being net income. So three of their competitive advantages, main competitive advantages, how we see, is diversification, sustainability, and vertical integration, and their culture. So their diversification, while they focus supply on North America and they supply multiple different industries, so this diversification strengthens Nucor's resistance to underperforming sectors, while other competitors are heavily focused in a single area, leaving them vulnerable. This diversification is a mode and a pathway because it is an internal course of development. And Liam Florian happens to know Nucor's former CEO, Dan DiMicco. So Liam gave him a call to talk about Nucor, and Dan really emphasized Nucor's strength of diversification. We pulled two of these quotes from his interview. And sustainability and vertical integration. So a significant portion of raw materials are vertically integrated for Nucor. This minimizes risks associated with global sourcing and increases supply chain efficiency and decreases overall waste. Over the last decade, Nucor has shortened their supply chain, which decreases waste and promotes environmental sustainability. They did this by producing 100% of steel domestically and using environmentally friendly electric arc furnaces compared to traditional furnaces. They are the largest recycler in the United States and produce steel and focus research and development in emerging sustainable energy sectors. So Nucor really credits their success to their outstanding culture. They have pay based on performance, so the better an employee works, the higher their compensation, and they encourage productivity and quality of work while not promoting internal competition. And also they really value job security. They never lay off employees for economic reasons if they're personally performing well. And this is something that Dan, during his call with Liam, really emphasized on. He talked about it a lot. And these are three of his quotes. My favorite, saying that everyone at the company says we all bleed green, just showing how strong their culture is. And finally, Nucor's two main competitors are United States Steel and Steel Dynamics. U.S. Steel is the second largest steel producer in the U.S., founded in 1901. They have a really strong Central European presence with a plant in Slovakia, but little to no focus on sustainability. And Steel Dynamics is the third largest steel producer in the U.S., founded by three former Nucor execs, and they have a focus on sustainability with their big recyclers, have electric arc furnaces, but they are not well diversified. Over 40% of all steel sales goes to the construction industry, and 41% of all steel produced is flat roll steel.
I'm Brett McCraw, and to open my analysis of the current corporate strategy, I think it's necessary to understand the most basic explanation of who Nucor is, as summarized by former CEO Kenan-Flagler. Our competitive strategy is to build manufacturing facilities economically and to operate them efficiently. To the right of the quote, you can see Nucor's business strategies that Caleb introduced a minute ago. These 8 business units make up the bulk of Nucor's success in the steel industry. They've positioned themselves well in each of these units to build their corporate advantage as a company, but there's still opportunity for efficient synergies to be created. For example, one being a consolidation between construction and infrastructure. Nucor leads the United States in supplying steel to the construction industry, and it's mastered efficient use of decentralized mini mills that are strategically placed in locations with access to major highways, railways, and waterways. By consolidating the use of these mini mills with infrastructure, Nucor could optimize these locations and continue building positive relationships with the local markets. A great example of consolidation between the two units is in purchasing and sales. They both sell beam, rebar, fasteners, and metal, and they need the resources to manufacture those products. The next one is agriculture and heavy equipment. There's a connection synergy there between very dissimilar resources that often share the same customers when dealing in farming. So Nucor has an opportunity to connect agriculture and heavy equipment sales to create efficiency in pushing the product to the market. Their incredible ability to acquire manufacturers has provided the company the opportunity to provide good products to both units. And because they share similar customers, sales teams need to push those for both, thus lowering coordination cost. So I want to move on to the synergistic portfolio framework. Using this, you can see a visual depiction of how Nucor's 8 main units interact with each other and their effect on the entire portfolio. Just to mention a couple key players, construction's Nucor's most prized and profitable business unit. Not only do they have great market power in the industry, but the unit benefits the rest of the portfolio through their recycled content use and also the necessary acquisitions over time. Oil and gas, because of where our nation's directed with renewable energy and away from fossil fuels, doesn't create much benefit to the portfolio as a whole. And that's the only one that falls below the threshold of acceptance. So as you can see, Nucor's diversified their portfolio exceptionally well with almost all of their business units other than oil and gas. And now I want to talk about the last slide I've got, areas of corporate advantage. As mentioned earlier, Nucor prides itself on extreme decentralization and autonomy among the divisions. In a research study that on Nucor corporate strategy, the bottom line was that all the important decisions are made right there at the division, and the general manager is accountable for his or her divisions. And they've created this culture through strategic acquisitions that included expansion all over the U.S. This is an example of an external pathway, and these steel mills listed on the slide are just a few. So sound upper-level management casted this decentralized company culture to encourage lower-level innovation. In fact, many of Nucor's most profitable and prized innovations have come from the lower level, and that wouldn't have happened in centralized command.
Thanks, Brett. My name is Michael, and I'll be talking about the global scope of the market. The current global steel market strongly favors China, who make more than half of the world's steel, producing over 100 million metric tons a year. The once metal-dominant United States is now fourth, producing less than 1/10 of China's output. China has achieved their advantage with backhand methods, violating many international antitrust laws and economic precedents. The Chinese government subsidizes and supports Chinese steel manufacturing, who are able to quickly sell their lower quality steel in foreign markets well below market cost. The Chinese industry dominance has made it extremely difficult for multinational corporations like Nucor and other countries to capture market share. Nucor has a very limited global scope, as they have focused much of their value chain on U.S. factories and on U.S. sales. Nucor only sells their products in Mexico, Canada, and the United States. Across their roughly 200 plants, Nucor has decentralized their company organization, like Brett has mentioned, so that they can replicate their value chain across all of their locations. This decentralization has allowed them to maximize the value of their locations home and abroad, providing more strategic growth and lower administrative overhead costs. Nucor has applied this strategy into the joint venture with Japanese steel company JFE Steel in central Mexico, where their facility is in commissioning phase, and you can see the pictures to the left. It currently brings the expertise and experience that JFE has to the high-end exposed automotive coated steel products industry. That's quite a saying right there. And one of the variances that you see in their value chain there is that they oftentimes divide the beginning of their value chain with raw material acquisition to get the cheapest pig iron, DRI, and other metals. Finally, if you're talking about the adding value framework, we can see why there are a lot of benefits that Nucor can expect if they expand internationally. Growing internationally can create a lot of economic value, just like I mentioned, or they just like typical industry or company growth. Moving into the new market adds volume, quite simply, and for Nucor, their Mexican plant is a good example of this, where they have had a better multi-market contact with Japanese steel giant JFE and more access to the Mexican steel market, where they sell across that nation from better location. The added scale has also expanded into Mexico, has made them more joint partnerships and reduced their expected liabilities and costs. Another unique property of the global growth is their ability to differentiate into more niche markets. For example, in the Mexican factory, they have gone into the galvanized steel for the automotive industry with high innovation and high technology growth. Expanding can also improve industry attractiveness by opening up new markets, and the international expansion would have the potential to reduce cross-border operations risk and give Nucor more direction for future global expansion. If Nucor can figure out how to continue to expand globally in the steel market, they can stand to increase their value and decrease their costs.
I'm Miles, and I'm going to talk about AAA strategy. While the adding value framework analyzes present international options, the AAA strategy can be used to evaluate future possibilities and trade-offs. A key aspect to think about is the globalization of production. This is especially true with steel, as prices have fallen due to companies utilizing not only adaptation and aggregation, but arbitrage. By using arbitrage, companies have lowered steel prices worldwide, prompting a Nucor executive to make the following comment about setting up in Mexico. Local strengths paired with Nucor's ability to aggregate have created an instance of AAA strategy-based value production. On the next slide, I'm going to talk about the key issues and resource gaps. So one key issue is the fact that most of Nucor's revenue is derived from the U.S. And as steel production, one of their major products, is rapidly globalized, it becomes a resource gap for a company like Nucor not to take advantage of certain international specialization and arbitrage. The effect of this gap was realized in an internal evaluation, which reported the following quote about dropping sales. So a drop in price in the ton of steel is in part consequence of globalized production. If a company can utilize varying elements of the supply chain in different countries with different unique local advantages, then they will achieve absolute economies and get greater quantity output for the same input. This then leads to a drop in price, and it becomes a resource gap not to operate internationally. And it should be noted that the current global steel market is not ideal for Nucor to expand. China's practices, particularly in the steel industry, cast enough doubt about the wisdom of current expansion that this may be a key resource gap, but forces outside of the scope of this class may also be at play. On the next slide, I'm going to talk about unorganized diversification. Another resource gap actually comes from one of their strengths, diversification. A key in creating a diversified portfolio is to emphasize modularity so that you can be quick and reactive to which of your holdings are serving your portfolio. Keeping clear divisions within your business units and allowing them to perform separately lets you make informed decisions on to what degree they're taking or giving in your portfolio. Nucor has found themselves slow to invest in environmental branding and products, which is an area they have a competitive advantage over cheap steel. While they currently produce high quality steel that is mostly recycled, Nucor is losing ground because they have not created enough of a portfolio that is centered around environmentally strong products and communicates that strength with the market. Without modularity, Nucor cannot be as quick to understand and act on the resources and advantages they have.
Thanks, Miles. I'm Liam, and I'm going to be talking about the final recommendations that we have for Nucor. So I hope that we portrayed well the strength of Nucor as a company. Our first recommendation is just that Nucor the path of vacation. Nucor is the most diversified company in the steel and steel products production industry, and we believe that this is one of Nucor's defining strengths. As the industries that Nucor supplies shift over time, Nucor is positioned to adapt. We believe this is a strong advantage that over the competitors in the industry, and it should be pressed by Nucor in the coming years. On the next slide, we see the next recommendation is that as things stand currently in the world, nationalism is king, especially after the coronavirus. Each country wants to move supply chains back to domestic producers. This does not leave the door open for Nucor to very productively expand in international markets. However, if things do end up changing, we believe that Nucor would be well suited to expand globally. Nucor produces high quality steel for some of the lowest costs in industry. Michael touched on the benefits of international expansion earlier in the presentation, and I believe that Nucor can press that advantage as well if the tides shift in the future. And then finally, we recommend that Nucor makes a large push to highlight the fact that they are North America's largest recycler. ESG investing and sustainability are very in vogue right now, and Nucor should capitalize on this current sentiment. The American public has an amplified voice to push for change and to shame companies into practicing sustainability. Nucor should launch a campaign to get other companies to buy American steel due to its better impact on the environment. Working with the new Biden administration will be very important for Nucor. They will need help from the American government blocking the cheap Chinese steel from entering the market. We could see a partnership working out well between Nucor and the Biden administration because Nucor can become Biden's poster child for business sustainability. So those are our final recommendations. Thank you for listening to the presentation.